Good morning to you, and thank you for tuning in to FlowFM 92.7. It's now time for the headline news analysis. Well, we are going to be having a great, sweet conversation this morning on the headline news analysis. While before we came on air, we were having a little background conversation, but I think that should not get to the microphone just yet. We can honestly, we can continue the conversation on it. The ones that is filtered, we can have it on the microphone, and then we can probably discuss after the show. Good morning to you. My name is Dayo Adeyemi, and welcome to the Headline News Analysis.
I'm Danielle Shitta-Bey. Thank you for joining us on the Headline News Analysis. Good morning to you, Nicholas.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
I'm fine.
How's your trip down here?
Yeah, cool.
All right, then. The Headline News Analysis is a platform created for you to be able to have your say and comment and debate on any of the news stories that we brought to you at 7, or anyone that you see in the national dailies you'd like to talk about. You can bring it up on the show and we would analyze it and talk about it. Most definitely. The number to call is 0807-777-9927. Again, 0807-777-9927. Also, the views to be expressed is not in any way the position of FlowFM 92.7 or the staff therein, but is expressed by in-house analyst Nicholas Uwerunonye. It's also good to note that we are streaming live this morning on YouTube and on Facebook at FlowFM 927.
All right. A lot of interesting stories to touch on this morning. Of course, you can trust us as hot as any story is. We'll bring them on the analysis and talk about them. Well, I think this is going to be the very first time we'll be having a conversation around the aviation, ministry. And this has to do with the recent, hula baloo that we've been experiencing, or the back and forth that we've been experiencing when it comes to that industry. That ministry. First up, it was about a very big sensational, Fuji artist about a week ago. Now, K1 The Ultimate. Now we're seeing another trending a video surfacing online on Ibom Air of, a passenger who was acting very, very, very unruly. And then, of course, that led to so many... The whole thing has escalated. And, of course, the Minister of Aviation, Festus Keyamo, speaking. And a lot of Nigerians taking position on it. First stop. Let's talk about what is really, really going on with the aviation, sector. Is it that people don't understand there are certain aviation rules that must be followed? Protocols.
What I think is that what you saw, what we've been seeing, is what has been happening for a very long time. It only gained traction because, a highly exposed person, media exposed person got involved. But for anybody who has been traveling, you see things like that and we just think it's normal. So that has always been our thing. It's that brashness that we see both in governance, in the way we do things, we move on the streets, the way we, run our local transports and things like that. Is what has been exported, to, the air transport. That is what you're saying basically. The average Nigerian feels is entitled, and that is what you saw. And the conduct of that, passenger was it's unbecoming. And I like the way she was, taken up legally. But again, we must let me once again commend Festus Keyamo, because I think he made the right call in the areas of, calling out the way the footage, of that woman, the explicit, that had explicit content, was put on air. And I think that the Nigerian police, if they are listening right now, when they are done drooling over the explicit content in that video, they should go about doing their job. You understand? Because you see, the Cybercrime Act is very clear on when to pick out a person when you put certain things on the internet. And that qualifies for it. Anything that has pornographic content, and you put it on air, that qualifies for cyberbullying, cybercrime. You understand? So I think they should stop for a moment, enjoying themselves while watching that footage and go after the person who did that. You understand?
Exactly the call of the minister, Festus Keyamo, is saying that staff who are responsible for, putting out the footage should be identified and sanctioned. Now, in all of this, we're looking at two scenarios right now. First attack, from the passenger on, the air hostess, and of course, the whole, dragging and of course, what has led into what we already have right now, that it's all over the place. How do you think, the law can come in this situation?
First and foremost, before we talk about the law, I think, a lot of government officials have been reprehensible in their comment on this, and I'll single out two people, Abike Dabiri and the current spokesman for the president, Bayo Nanuga, who happened to be my former boss. I think they have been too hasty, this are things that are potentially criminal in nature. You should be very careful about how you make comments. The case of Abike Dabiri saying air is human on her Twitter handle, when Kwamwan misbehaved. You understand? I think you should have been more circumspect about the kind of comments he makes. It's like giving him a free pass. Now, before that, was concluded, we now had this issue. And you heard Bayo Noga saying that the unruly girl has been taken to. It is not for you to judge. It's not for you. It's before the law. You have already condemned the girl, by the content of that. And these are supposed to be journalists. And it's quite, I kind of, I kind of have this way of, I don't know why some of my senior colleagues are doing the kind of things they do. You understand? And maybe it has to do with the power thing. You trust a man with power and his real nature comes out. And that is what we are seeing all over the places. We are talking of issues of brazenness, self-entitlement, and, these are things they dare not do when they go outside Nigeria, So, I mean, it's quite, But, of course, the case of the law, I think so far, the law, in the case of that passenger, has already started taking its course. But the other arm of it, which is those who put that video, on the internet, they too have some questions to answer, And of course, there has been a lot of talk about, why would the girl not wear a bra and things like that. I think that, it's neither here nor there. You understand that? Because in any case, the girls know exactly what guys are always looking out for. So that informs their kind of dressing. I'm not here to, tell anybody how to dress or things like that. So far you look decent from the outside. How you decide to package yourself and things like that inside is your business. But the problem is don't come outside and assault our decency, sense of decency, So those are some of the issues. And I think that, those explicit images happened because she was struggling. They wanted to eject her and she refused to leave the plane. So that was why. So things like that would necessarily happen.
Okay. So when we talk about conflict management, when it comes to airlines and how they train their staff, in that situation, you mentioned earlier that this is something that's always been happening with, passengers and protocols and airline staff and all of these things. How well are these airlines actually training their staff in, making sure that passengers actually follow due process and protocols and prevent things like this from happening and escalating? Now, the people who even put this thing on the internet, the staffs that were there was nobody checkmating who was videoing and who was, making all of these things happen.
Well, you see, I think what you're talking about now is the general culture around here. You see, for a very long time, we've had aviation industry, but the problem is we have been operating at a substandard level. Now, with a lot of upgrade in our ranking and things like that, you are bound to see more of this happening because for a very long time, we've been running our aviation like we are running Molu service. That's the simple truth. You see a lot of things that ordinarily, because, the few times I have traveled outside the country, the quality of service that I have seen is when you compare it to what we have locally, it is nothing to write home about. So, but definitely things like this are going to happen, especially with the escalation of, internet penetration and things like that. You are going to start seeing more of this. Like you rightly said, a lot of training, in aviation etiquette has to go into, people who are support services in the aviation sector, like the air hostesses and the rest of them, So a lot of training has to go in it because regardless, that woman is still their customer and they treated her badly. If, they were responsible for putting that footage on, on the cyberspace.
Let's also speak to, passenger behavior on the airline. Because again, you hear some simple basic rules, or please turn off your phone or put on an airplane mode, because some of the signals could jam on the plane. But you still see a lot of passengers, speak rudely, to, I think, like you were saying, the culture in this part, it is not peculiar to Nigeria. Americans behave irrational. It's a human thing.
Yeah,
it is a human thing. But again, how are we able to, speak to people to understand that, okay, there are protocols and there are rules that you must follow,
And
basic safety rules. It's for your own good.
We've been talking about safety issues for a very long time. You see, what makes you think that the average guy that rides a keke napep is different from those guys that you see on plane? What makes you think they are different? They have the same mentality. They are the same Nigerians that you see on the street. So you see the same attitude, because they got given a free ticket to fly. Doesn't mean those habits are going to disappear. No, they are going to escalate it up there. So, and that's what we have seen. So, how many times are you find yourself in a taxi, for instance, and you see somebody bring out a phone and play the music so loud. It doesn't make sense. He plays the music so loud, and usually, I'm sorry to say this, Danielle, if you're offended, but girls are fond of it more.
Playing loud music?
Playing loud music. They just turn on their phone and they watch different kind of TikTok, and it's so loud. In fact, there was one instance that it was so. I was in one of this auto rickshaw. I saw this girl just the thing was essentially loud, and I was looking at the news content of the day. I was trying to go through. I had to tell her, please, young lady, please, could you turn down the volume or use your earphone? You understand? The girl looked at me. I said, what's this one saying? Where is it from? Like something out of this planet. But I was simply telling her what she should do, what is decent. But you see, it has to start from the scratch. Where you go around. Do you see all these young students who in this MP3, and just playing music while walking on the street? So that is the habit of the average Nigerian on the street. Nobody says things about it. We should be talking about this right now, but nobody tends to be talking about it.
All right. Well, also, Peter Obi has called out the double standards concerning this arrest, saying that talking about the public humiliation of the woman involved, Comfort Emerson, and who had like a swift detention.
Swiftly,
yeah. And also, he now mentioned about this is K1 the Ultimate, who was also accused and was of a more serious aviation offense, and he remains free.
Look, I recall, Danielle, when we had the first conversation of this issue, I did say that that thing was an act of terrorism. And somebody said that, no, it's not that. But, listen to the next, what Festus Keyamo, the second comment he made, he said he has taken a look at that thing, and he has placed it on not just 6 months, indefinite, no flight, list, on pending the investigation. And there has been a lot of hues and cries, people begging on behalf of Kwam. And that tells you that they know what he has done. He simply stopped a moving plane. That's what he did.
Attempted because again, if you look at the civil aviation rules of 2022, you will find some of these things there. Okay. You'll find them there. Any attempts, it is seen as hijacking. It will be perceived as an hijacking.
Oh, good. Thank you very much for making that clarification. That is hijack, and hijack falls within the prism of terrorism. Putting fear, you are trying to put the safety of those people on. So by now, as we are talking right now, one should be cooling in heels in detention. It's as simple as that. You say, look, if you cannot arraign him, then Nigerians should insist that comfort girl should be released. This double standard has to stop. All
right, let's take this call. Okay, we lost that call. Please do also try to connect back. 0807-777-9927. Again, 0807-777-9927. All right. Yeah. So, if we look at this situation now with Kwam. Okay, let's take this call before I go ahead with my question. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you. What is your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Shitta. I'm calling from Congo.
All right, Shitta, please go ahead with your comment.
Yeah, my comment this morning on the Aviation problem. You see, when we are talking about system, it cuts across all our sectors. In some other part of the world, just by the fact that you have your money, you learn etiquette. before you patronize hospitality. Aviation is a very tiny unit of hospitality. And it's not about you have money that I can determine how I'm going to relate with people. That is one. Two, where is the training for the staff of these aviations? You see, the hostels, the security, they are supposed to train them on interpersonal relationships and crisis management because they have many other options before the matter could be escalated. Because in the hospitality industry, whatever you do, you do it in a friendly manner. Even while you are communicating the policy of the sector. But all those ones are missing. Look at the issue of K1 Ultimate. Who check in him even before he gets to the tarmac? Because it must have been screened behind the scene before the scene is being created. Now in Nigeria, we create a lot of problems. We distract ourselves. We now be looking for a solution. It will not happen in the World West because they have good system. It's not about only their politicians. It's even about also citizens. You learn etiquette. You behave wherever you go. You don't just claim. You don't feel entitled and what have you. Because if you meet all these our hostels, I've met some of them. They are saucy. Some of them lacking manner. They talk to you rudely. But that does not mean that the customer should misbehave because they too they need to learn etiquette. Look at the escalation everywhere and here. How many people are patronizing our aviation sector that we're having these problems? Go to the World West and see the number of customers. And there are customers they categorize in hospitality as a stubborn guest. Somebody must be trained on how to handle them. So that's my comment this morning. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so very much for your comment this morning.
Yeah, I agree with him that at every level, every authority responsible for the breakdown of order there should be held accountable. You understand? But you see, first things first, which is the bigger crime? A crime was committed in the case of K1. You understand? There is no doubt about it. A crime was committed. And I think that should take precedence, honestly.
Let's take another call. Hello, good morning.
Hello? Good morning.
Good morning.
Please go ahead. What's your name and where you calling from, please?
All right. 0807-777-9927 is number to call. This is the headline news analysis. You can make comments on any of the news stories that we've brought to you this morning. Now, part of the comment that will be made was that the disparity that highlights a broader trend where the poor face immediate punishment while politically connected individuals evade accountability. Now, is this what exactly is playing out, or the fact that the crimes are quite different? What's going on?
There is this very senior colleague of mine. He's a public officer, so I won't mention his name. There was something he told me once. He said, the poor man is a workshop where laws are tested. And that is what you see playing out. You understand? It's so easy to swiftly bring the poor man to justice. But when it comes to, somebody that appears to be influential, like you have the case of Kwamwan, Wasiu, and Marshall, you understand, whose closeness to the president is well documented on videos and things like that. In fact, there was even a case immediately after that thing happened. Somebody put a footage on the video showing him talking to Mr. President. Mr. President was talking to him, praying for him, telling him that he's going to succeed and things like that. They were praying. And that person noted that now this person, now they won't arrest. You understand? That is the enormity of what we are taking for granted. You understand? And that is why you have Peter Obi say that kind of a thing. That if you have a law that differentiates between the haves and the haves not, then you are living in an unequal society. Nobody wants to live in that kind of society. Nobody, nobody loves that kind of society. It makes everybody embittered. I am embittered, honestly.
All right, 0807-777-9927. And that number connects you directly into the program this morning to pass comment on this story, touched on any other that is catching your attention. Let's move away from that and move to Sokoto State, as we're hearing this developing story where the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, picked up former Sokoto State Governor Aminu Tambuwa over alleged fraudulent cash withdrawals amounting to 189 billion during his tenure. The former governor Tambuwal was detained in Abuja after reportedly failing to provide satisfactory explanations for the transaction under investigation. Now, opposition parties are condemning the move, alleging that the anti-graft agency is being used to target critics of the ruling, party, that is the APC, particularly any opposition leader that is attached or perceived to be attached to former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. Is that what is playing out, or rather, Nigerians should be able to see that, well, these anti-graft agencies can do their work on anybody?
Well, you see, it is a very complex thing to talk about right now, because, the fact is, I don't want to join those people saying that they are attacking, the opposition element. The question is, did Tambuwal make such withdrawals? If he has, then he should be detained. Please, I don't want to sugarcoat anything, because you see, we have to be very careful. Yes, the optics might appear wrong. Don't forget, we have the case of Okowa, who was equally detained, and voila, before you could say Jack Robinson, he has ported to APC, and nothing is being said about it. You have the case of what's the name of the former governor of Kogi State,
Yaya
Bello. Look at the kind of the high-level drama. He was placed on wanted list. He was working there. He will work to them. Somebody who placed on the wanted list came, and there has been a lot of allegation that they want to make some kind of optics out of it. And you cannot have things like that, and then you have a major opposition figure being treated this way, and you not hear hooplas all over the places. That will appear to look like double standard. Yeah, it looks like that. But you see, we must equally not lose sight of the fact that if there are no infractions, you understand, there wouldn't have been any basis to have him arrested in the first place. You understand? After all, one of the biggest opposition figure, Peter Obi, has been asking people, look, if you have anything, come and pick me. And nobody has picked him up. So that means, as we might have alleged, as the allegation might go, that they are one-sided, why didn't they pick them up? There has been article all over we've said all manners of things. Nobody has picked them up. You understand? So you see, we have to be very careful and balanced in the way we say things, so that we don't, at the end of the day, destroy that central institution that is meant to fight anti-corruption. That is just my initial take on this matter. So let us even look at it really. Can one really say that Tambuwal is an opposition figure, because I haven't really been hearing his voice? You understand? So I think it's just purely routine, and and the fact that he's an ADC member is something that is a bit just a happenstance. So a lot of people have been very vocal now. They've been saying a lot of things, and nobody has picked them up. Even,
well, so do you see that like coming from his political activities right now? He's been quiet for a while. As a matter of fact, he appears like a very quiet person. And looking at how the whole thing, how his involvement with Alhaji Atiku Abubakar,
exactly,
about the last PDP primaries and all of these things, and then all that surrounds him. Now, do you think that again is as a result of his identification with the EDC, and then maybe it's the other way around, that the anti-graft agency need not the permission of the the president of the country to move out if they have information on anybody?
Let me, you see, again, like I said, I haven't said what I said, that we need to be very careful about making a comment about this. But I think too that Mr. President too should think about the image being created.
All right, sorry to bother you, Nicholas. Let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you. Please, what's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Michael, and I'm calling from Uwerunonye.
Michael from Uwerunonye, it's good to have you. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, please. I want to talk on this EFCC issue and Tambuwal. Yeah, you see, I don't really know what is wrong with us in this country, because you see, when an agency that is supposed to fight corruption does its duty, people will criticize them. Why have they done this? I want to take you back to what happened in Atota, at Obasanjo Presidential Library Hotel, when people were arrested. Obasanjo came out and said he was going to sue the agency. These are the kind of things. Okay, if they did not do their work, people will say, "Look at what is going on. Nobody is doing anything." When they do their work, they will be criticized. I really don't understand what we want in this country. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so very much. Well, I think this is...
Obasanjo case is something else again.
Exactly, because again, that's a private property, and of course, you're breaking into such place. Maybe it could be on those grounds that the former president's pressing charges.
You know what I think? For me, I think to a very large extent, as knowledgeable as Nigerians can be, they can be so ignorant about very simple things. Yeah. Because you only need to when you read the comment, read the statement, that you have from both, EFCC hasn't made any open comment about what has happened. But the Obasanjo farms have, Obasanjo library has come out to explain the scenario. And you see, there is a basis for that outrage. And when you express outrage, about things like that, there is always, a basis for litigation. You understand? And they have taken that. So they shouldn't be blamed for that. Where they have overstepped their bound, when EFCC have overstepped their bound, people have a right to show outrage. And let's not forget that the same, the CEO, the chief executive officer of EFCC, when he came on board, made a promise that this night raid of, places is going to stop.
Residences.
Yeah, but it has still continued. So you cannot expect people to keep quiet when you have such contradictions. You understand? So you see, look at the case of VDM. You understand? So there has been, places where their calls has raised a lot of suspicion. So when people complain about that, I think it's within the legitimate right of people to complain. And, I would rather take issues as they come. The case of Tambuwal, like we're talking about, for as far as I'm concerned, the explanation is very clear that he made withdrawals. And I know there are lots of laws about withdrawals of government funds, that it must not be in cash, it must be by wire transfer, and it must not exist certain limit and things like that. But as a governor, I know there are a lot of immunity surrounding it. And, the principal thing about EFCC is that most of their operatives are very vast in law. I have obtained training on investigation at the behest of EFCC. EFCC operative have put us through the mills in training people on spotting corruption-related offenses, especially in the areas of financial malfeasances. So I know I have attended 3 quality trainings by EFCC. So these are people that don't make frivolous allegations. Let us be clear about that. That's just the baseline. So, but how they do it, the choice of people they pick, you might have an issue with that. But in terms of not having a basis for holding someone, that is not EFCC. You understand? Because if they are that shoddy, you won't have organizations like the FBI, as big as the FBI, the Inland Revenue Service of the United States of America, working with them. They have very solid working relationship. So we must be very clear about that. So, but of course, this is politics. A politically exposed person is the most difficult person to handle in a criminal offense.
All right, let me take this quick message. This message says, is from Dr. Mrs. Imaldi Barra from Owerri. Today is International Youth Day. Any nation without the youth is like a tree without roots. The burden and challenges that face our youth are enormous. Many of them are suffering, training themselves, battling with life and studies and unemployment. And many are misused by politicians as thugs and manipulators. And they've often allowed themselves to be used and dumped. I'm not going to be able to take all of this, but I'm sure they've learned a lot of lessons from the past and would refocus for a better future. It is their duty to determine who should rule this country, and it's time to start displaying their strength positively. We're unable to take any more comments. Our time is far spent, but thank you very much for sending in your comments today. The views expressed is not in any way the position of FlowFM 92.7 or the staff therein, but is expressed by our in-house analyst, Nicholas Uwerunonye. We'll be back to your ears tomorrow from 8 o'clock to 8:30, God willing. Have a great day.
FlowFM 92.7.
Araba Radio.